From the beautiful campus of Casper College, it's time to dive into the world of Casper College athletics with another episode of the Casper College Coaches Show. Now here's your host, Phil Kohler.
Welcome, fans of the Casper College Coaches Show. I'm your host, Phil Kohler, joined as always by the head coach of the Casper College Thunderbirds, Tom Parks. Coach, another great weekend for you guys. You guys get 3 more wins in the Region 9 versus Region 13 showdown, border war, whatever they want to call it. You guys have won 6 games in a row now. You got to be feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think this is something we kind of saw coming, like that we could go on a streak and that we could win just based on like some hints here and there from some games. But it's exciting to actually like see it come about and to go into break winning 6 games. I mean, it's junior college, that Christmas break is much needed for players and coaches.
Sure.
And so like it's just a little bit easier to relax, do some recruiting, watch some film, knowing that you're 10-5 and you won 6 in a row and you're playing some good basketball. So.
Absolutely. And so the guys flip the notebooks over and they go through that rest of the schedule. And 3 for 3 so far. You guys start with a win on Thursday against Miles, 91-70. You get 5 different guys in double figures. Talich with 17, Robinson with 16, Bashir with 14, Jimma James with 14, and then Josh EJ with 10. Mm-hmm. Talk about the balanced scoring that you got from those guys in that win.
Yeah, I think the really unique thing about our team is, yes, we have guys that lead us in scoring, you know, both from season averages and on a nightly basis, but I don't think anybody actually cares who takes the shot.
Sure.
In fact, I think sometimes guys care, they want certain guys to take the shot that's not themselves, you know what I mean? I think that people trust Darius and Abdul with the ball in their hands and making plays, but you know, if you want to decide to not guard Nate Talich, like
Sure.
he can go for 17 and he can do other things that don't show up on a stat sheet. So yeah, it's nice. And the great part about it is like, you know, maybe Abdul didn't score his average, but you would never know after the game.
Yeah.
You know, they're excited for Talich. I mean, they're talking about how many threes he made. Oh, what are you shooting from the free throw line this trip? Like, you know, and it's kind of fun just to be around him. Like, no one really cares. You don't have that guy that doesn't play well and we win and they're kind of pouting. Like, we don't really see that on our team.
Cool. Well, and then moving on to Friday, you guys get a 97-68 win over Williston. Darius leads the way with 33, but Jimma James comes in and has 21 and 9. I mean, we talk about a guy that at the start of the season came in with some hype that we were all excited to, and all of a sudden this evolution of Jimma James, and he's turning into the player that I think we were all excited to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Abdul comes in and gets 11 points and 6 assists. And again, Abdul, you know, your leading scorer, 11 points, but back to your point, 6 assists. I mean, a guy that comes in and can facilitate and really get other guys involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then moving on to Saturday, you guys get a 102-77 win over Dawson. 102-77 win over Dawson. 32 points from Abdul in this one, 9 of 11 from 3. Abdul comes in, again, your leading scorer, 18 points a game. He scores 14 and 11, so a little under the average. And then on Saturday, he really gets it cooking from 3, 9 of 11 from 3. Talk about what you saw from Abdul on Saturday.
I mean, it's the second guy that's gone 9 of 11 on our team from 3, and I think that's kind of the scary part about our team offensively is the chances that Darius and Abdul are off is rare, at least up to this point in the season. We're at the halfway mark. And so, yeah, I mean, Abdul's just a guy that he just can make shots that other people can't.
Sure.
And he can create his own, similar to Darius, like he can create his own shot, but he's also a smart basketball player. Like he's a really high IQ guy, so like he's not going to go out there and just take a bunch of tough shots if other guys are open. If other guys are open, he's going to facilitate, he's going to make plays for them. And he's more than a willing passer. You know, he's a guy, he throws a pass and someone's open. Like, he's excited to see the ball go in for somebody else. But he's hard to guard, man, and he makes a lot of shots in a row. He can do it in a hurry. I think that's what you see. I mean, I don't know how many he had in, like, the last 3 minutes of the game against Dawson, but it was quite a few.
So you guys get credited with almost 19 assists per game in that 3 games. You talk about the way that guys are facilitating. Is that something where, you know, it's just guys that get along with each other? Is it something that you're preaching, or is it a part of your offense to just find the open man?
Well, I think, you know, our offense is always going to be better when we move the ball, but I think the system in which we play, you know, from the defensive standpoint, pressing and playing fast, it's a system where, like, if you just make the right play, you're going to get credit with assists. Like, if a guy's open and you pitch the ball ahead and he's on for 3 and he shoots it, great, you get an assist. It's not, I think that it doesn't really matter where the assists come from. It's impressive, but the fact that guys are like making the right play within our system is probably the biggest reason. I mean, we do have, but it's like Josh, like he gets a rebound and there's two guys on him and he gets a rebound and Abdul's standing at 3, he passes to him, or Darius. Sure. So I think to like the naked eye, we're probably not making a spectacular assist, but we're making the right basketball play. And I think part of its system, I think this group is extremely connected. I mean, honestly, it was a very fun weekend, just on the road, just being around them. And, like I said, we all need a break. But this is probably like the one group that I've been around where it's like, I'm probably going to miss them a little bit more than other groups, and missing getting better and being on the court and being on the road. And so, like, as much as I'm excited for the break, I'm excited to get back because they are a very connected group, which makes it fun to coach.
Well, and as connected as they are, it obviously takes the guys that are on the floor, but it also takes some guys in the locker room that maybe don't play as much that can lead to that connectedness as well. Rohan Butler seems like the type of guy that does that. He got in a little bit this weekend, a guy that doesn't play a ton of minutes, but seems like he's a great locker room guy.
He's a great locker room, and he's a really good basketball player too. I think, when we got the job, we had certain pieces that we wanted to fill where there were holes, both like from a need standpoint, whether it was shooting or toughness or rebounding, but also from a position standpoint. And as like the clock got closer and closer to the start of school, we realized we probably need to stop worrying so much about this position or even this skill set, and we probably need to find the right people, that also are good basketball players. So, with Rohan, it's tough because there's a lot of really good players on our team in his position. But he's a guy that, kind of like our team early on, I think throughout the course of the year, people will see him play more and more. And then, coming back for a sophomore year, I think he'll be a really, like, big piece. And I think some people will be like, where did he come from? And they don't realize, like, he's doing it every day in practice. Sure. It's just there's only so many minutes to come around. But very likable human being, fun to be around. He's a guy where he might not play as much, but, like, he's never pouting. He's never in my office like, Coach, I don't understand. He just keeps putting his head down and working, and keeps being an enjoyable, likable person. And yeah, he's got a great sense of humor. And I think he's kind of like the glue on our team off the court. And him and Josh ran around to all these offices. They spent a bunch of their flex money on candy because I guess they don't have trolley candy in the UK. So they're like bringing back Christmas presents. But then they also had like Reese's, and I was like, where did you get this individual Reese's? Oh, we went to someone's office, and they just dumped their candy bowl in our bag. I'm like, dang, y'all went trick-or-treating in December. But one of the ladies in the business office said, when you guys come around, it makes my day.
Cool.
And that just shows you that's Rohan Butler for you.
Absolutely. Well, so we're going to get a chance to meet Rohan a little bit more as we go 94 feet. Well, feet in England? Maybe it's not. 94 feet with Rohan Butler. This is 94 feet with Rohan Butler. Rohan, you ready?
You mean 28 meters, not 94 feet.
28 meters with the English Rohan Butler. All right, Rohan, being from England, what's your favorite thing about the United States so far?
My favorite thing so far has got to be the support you get at college and high school games, stuff like that. I feel like it's more inclusive for the whole country.
Yeah, so what's the one thing that you miss the most about England?
I'm going to say the food and the wild population. Like, you could be just on the train home and see something crazy just going on. You never know what's going to happen there.
Who's the best teammate on Casper College's team right now?
I'm going to say my roommate, Josh. He's a 6'9" rebounder. He gets all the balls, makes life easy for you. So,
all right, real question. Is it football or soccer?
It's football. You only use your feet in football, so it's football.
All right, who's your favorite English club?
It's Arsenal. They won 6-0 yesterday in the Champions League, and they're going to win the whole thing, so just keep watching out.
Congratulations for them for winning their game in the Champions League yesterday. This has been 94 feet, or I guess 28 meters, with Rohan Butler. That was perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you. Welcome back, fans of the Casper College Coaches Show. Coach, again, you guys have won 6 games in a row now. This whole season it's been, trust the process, stick with us. We know it's coming, and it's finally now coming. You guys won 6 games in a row, 3 this weekend. Do you feel like there was a moment where all of a sudden it kind of clicked for your guys, where all of a sudden everything that you guys have been working towards kind of came together?
I think there's kind of 2 different moments where, as a staff and as a team, we kind of had some moments of realization. I think the first thing, I remember my dad was in town, we were sitting at the table. I think we talked about it on another episode, and my dad's just like, well, what are you going to do? Maybe it was after Salt Lake weekend, and I was like, we're just going to stop playing defense. We're going to stop playing defense, we're just going to play all offense. And that's not what we decided to do, because we're actually like, I mean, Dawson averages 95 points a game, and we held them, to 77, right? So we're playing good defense, but I think it was like we felt like we were trying to be really good at all these different things.
Sure.
When you have 2 hours of practice, maybe to work on all those things. So we started kind of focusing on a few more things, just pushing the ball more and then being a lot more aggressive on defense, whether that's in our press or in the half court. That was the first thing, and then I'm gonna credit Coach Deion Anderson for the second thing, because he came to me one day and he's like, Coach, like, what about playing more 5-on-5 in practice? And like, we do play 5-on-5, but a lot of times it was like, we're gonna do this half court, we're gonna do this 2 possessions. And so what we really started doing is doing some skill work to start, and then kind of jumping into more like scrimmages, and we kind of ease into it. But usually our practice, we're playing like 3 possessions in a row, and then we're going into like an 8-minute scrimmage.
Sure. And
then we're playing some 4-minute scrimmages, and then we're doing some situational stuff. And then maybe if we still feel like we need to fine tune, we go into the half court. And I think that really like gave our guys a chance to almost play a lot more games before we actually were in the game.
Sure.
And so I think those 2 things were probably the biggest things. And honestly, the third and the most important is just the buy-in and the commitment from our guys, because you're 4-5 and you maybe lost to a couple teams that you feel like you should beat, and you're sitting in the locker room and you played a tough schedule. Like, it's really easy to be like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. Like, let's go rogue. Let's do the stuff our own. And they just brought it every single day in practice. Sure. They really were committed to the process and getting better. And so I don't think you can have those first 2 things without the commitment and the buy-in.
Absolutely. Well, and I got to think too that the commitment and the buy-in also ties in with that 5-on-5. Guys are coming into practice, and I'm sure that they know the importance of the skill work and that kind of stuff, but they want to play basketball, right? That's why they came here, and so I'm sure that some of that buy-in had to do with playing 5-on-5 a little bit. So you guys come in, you got two different guys, both scoring 18 points a game. We talk about Abdul and Darius a lot on this show. 47 and 50% from the 3-point line. I mean, very impressive. But talk more about the consistency. You guys have played 15 games now, and you've started the same starting lineup in 14 of them. Does that have something to do with kind of where things are going as far as gelling together on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, starting lineup's a tricky one for me, because I know a lot of coaches do things differently, but I've always tried to keep somewhat of a consistent lineup, because I think it kind of, you start to get a routine and a pattern of when you're going to play and how much you're going to play and what your role is and who you're going to play with, and I think sometimes you have guys that start and they play less minutes than some guys on the bench, but they always know, like, I'm going to start, and unless something drastically changes, I leave that. But I do, even though we haven't started every game, in the way we want, I feel like we have firepower off the bench, both offensively and defensively. We have a lot of different guys that can do different things. So, if it's a team's big or a team's small, we can adjust if it's an advantage for us. But yeah, I don't know. It's easy to have consistency when you have it in practice. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing with this group is we've gotten over those days where it's like practice fell off, or maybe the guys were too competitive and we were losing sight of how we wanted to play and more just focused on, well, I'm going to take this guy one-on-one. I think we got over a lot of those things that you see from freshmen and you see from, a bunch of guys that I haven't coached, right? So I think the consistency is really, across the board. Like, they're consistent off the floor, they're consistent on the floor, they're consistent in the weight room. Like, they're pretty locked in and committed, and I think it's easy to see that consistency start to happen on the court.
Sure. Josh EJ comes in leading the way rebounding with 8.1 rebounds per game. He's a guy we spend a lot of time talking about, but a guy that we don't spend a lot of time talking about, Malik Rebetez, comes in averaging 4.1 assists per game. The main reason that we don't talk about him much is because I'm terrified of saying his name on the camera and messing it up, but I think I nailed it there. But he comes in 4.1 assists, only 1.3 turnovers per game, almost a 3-to-1 ratio. Yeah. You talk about how he is kind of like the guy that stirs the pot, but talk about what else Malik brings to the table.
Well, Malik's a guy who I really wanted to bring in since I got the job. I mean, and with the guards that we had coming back at the time, Hayden Ledbetter was supposed to be back. And I was just like, I felt like I was going to do somebody disservice if I brought in Malik. And when Hayden decided to move on to Southern Utah, I mean, there was no hesitation. Like, I called Malik right away. Yeah. And I think he might have been on tears on the phone. And he's a guy, like, if you look up his stats last year, like, people were probably like, why is this coach so excited about this guy that shot 8% from 3 and averaged like 2 points a game or whatever it was? And really, it's just like so many things that Malik doesn't show up on a box score. And he's the highest IQ player I've ever coached in my life. Maybe the highest IQ guy I've ever been around. Oh. And he knows my expectations, you know, even though we're doing some things different, like he's an extension of me on the floor. And he's just somebody like you trust that you're going to be in a good situation to win or to get stops or to execute a play if he's on the floor.
Sure.
And he brings the guys in for huddles off the floor. That was what made me really nervous in the game he didn't play. I was like, are we going to have like that consistency, that guy that's like keeping us together and on the same page? And we got through that game, but I mean, there's not enough great things I can say about Malik Rebetez. He's a phenomenal person to coach. He's a phenomenal guy to be around. He's somebody that everybody likes to be around, both on and off the court. And again, to be able to coach him 2 years, like I lost nights of sleep wondering what was going to happen to Malik Rebetez before he, you know, came back here.
Well, you talk about, you know, you think a puzzle, right? And you've got all these pieces to the puzzle, and you've got these scorers, and you've got Josh inside rebounding, and you've got Nate that's hustling around, and Malik just kind of is that guy, like he's that middle puzzle piece, right? He puts everything together, builds everything, just seems like a good dude to have on the team.
Yeah, he is.
So, Coach, you guys got a couple of weeks off now. You guys will come back. You get a rematch at Dawson and then United Tribes before you start sub-region play. Have you been able to watch much of the North region yet? I know this is your first year coming in here. Have you seen much? We got a lot of guys that are coming back as far as coaches are concerned in the North region. Have you seen much of what the North region has to offer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong region, especially now that you add Gillette.
Sure.
You know, we've had a chance to see some teams here, some of our classics that we didn't play in Western Wyoming, Gillette. Obviously, we saw Gillette this past weekend. But it's kind of funny, too, because teams that you see in October at a Jamboree look a lot different, you know, in December. And definitely us. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people, you know, I don't want any credit for what we've done yet because I think we still have a long ways to go.
Sure.
But I think some people are puzzled, like, man, I saw Casper in that Jamboree, and like, what, they just beat Dawson by 25, or they've won 6 in a row. Like, what's going on? And you know, I think it just shows like how much the team can change, and the opposite can also happen in teams, right? They can be really good early on and then kind of plateau and fall off. But you know, Central Wyoming has been very good. They've been very consistent. They haven't won every game, but like they've been in some games. They played Salt Lake tough. They played a lot of teams really tough. You know, we saw Western Wyoming up here. They're really solid. Have a lot of returners.
Kids coming back,
a ton of returners. And then Gillette, like, obviously Sean Neary's extremely fired up to have Gillette College back.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a place. You know, they're going to get a ton of support. You know, it's going to be a tough place to go play.
They played Salt Lake tough for 30 minutes here in Casper.
Absolutely, and they also went 3-0. They handed Dawson their first loss this past weekend. So, it's a good sub-region. That's not even like dipping into the South and talking about those teams. So I think the region's really strong, and I think it's a region where like you have to show up every game.
Absolutely. Well, and we're looking forward to a lot of great basketball games here come January, February, and hopefully into March as well. So, Coach, moving on from basketball, Christmas right around the corner. I got to ask you, what's the best Christmas present that you've ever gotten?
Shoot. I think so. I fell in love with basketball at a very young age.
Sure.
And, you know, Santa in a blizzard, he went outside on Christmas Eve when he got to the crib, and he dug a hole and poured concrete in the ground, and he put up a basketball court for me in a blizzard. And that was my first basketball hoop.
Cool.
And I remember waking up and seeing all my siblings' presents under the tree, and I'm like, dang, like Santa forgot about me. It's kind of messed up, you know. Like I didn't think I was that bad of a kid, but and then you know my dad's like, well, I think there's something outside, you know, and so. You know, I probably got multiple basketball hoops for Christmas growing up, but, you know, the first one was a special one. And I remember just being like 5 years old, freezing cold, like no gloves on, just out there, just hooping on frozen ground, you know, until my parents made me come in. And that was probably a tradition of mine. I mean, I think I shot in the driveway like every Christmas, whether there was like packed down ice and snow drifts and all that kind of stuff. Like it didn't matter to me. So that was probably my best Christmas present that I've gotten. Absolutely.
Well, great, Coach. Coach, if I don't get to see you again, have a great Christmas, have a great New Year's. We'll be back here January 2nd, I think is going to be our next coaches show, so we'll get back together then. In the meantime, you guys staying in town? You guys traveling at all?
going to the in-laws in Riverton. I'm going to Vegas recruiting, so that'll be a
Nice.
nice little trip to try to find some guys. But yeah, gonna have a nice low-key Christmas break, hang out with the kids, you know, and maybe have a white Christmas. It's been a little while since we've had snow on the ground. So
I'm not a big fan of the white Christmas personally, but that's to each their own. I mean, it's Wyoming, so there's a pretty good chance of it. But yeah, so
my kids' wish.
There
My
you go.
kids' wish.
There
so.
we go. All right, fans. Well, thanks for joining us, fans. Remember, always shoot for the stars, because even if you miss, there's always a chance for an offensive rebound. Thanks for joining us.